So some of you may have missed the first 4 parts. And fortunately, it's all recorded. And the topic has been teachings of Prahlad. And the teachings of Prahlad, they cover the 6th chapter of Canto 7. And 6th chapter of Canto 7 follows the 5th chapter of Canto 7. And in Canto 5, Hiranyakashipu has his henchmen try this and try that and try the other thing to kill Prahlad, because Prahlad is speaking Vishnu and Vishnu is his rival, and so he didn't like his son speaking this way. He decides to kill him. And it doesn't work, this and that and the other thing. Prahlad is protected by Lord Vishnu or Lord Nrsimhadev. And so Hiranyakashipu, becomes worried. He who's fearless becomes worried. This boy is so powerful, even I can't harm him. The demigods, if I simply raise my eyebrows, they tremble, and this little boy doesn't do any of that. So he's speaking this way. He speaks this way to Shanda and Amarka, the school teachers. The school teachers say, no problem, we'll work him over. Send him to our Asura Kula and we'll take care of him. And that's how chapter 5 ends. And chapter 6 begins with a description of they're in classroom and the boys are learning how to become good asuras. And Shanda and Amarka have to leave the classroom. It's a bad idea. Leave the classroom to tend to household duties. And what most children do when the teacher's away is they play. When the cat's away, the mice will play, right? So they want to play. And they invite Prahlad to play, and he says, no. Then Komara Acharat Pragyo. That's how the chapter 6 begins. And we missed Pran Govind because this morning we spent some time on the Pragya topic again and again and again. Several things on. I'm sorry. That's okay. You can hear the recording. I'm sure you were occupied doing something for Krishna. So. After Prahlad has gone through a range of, the do's and the do-nots, and it's indicating that the person who has pragya has sufficient intelligence to discriminate between what's to be done, what's not to be done, what's favorable, what's unfavorable. Anukul yasya sankalpa. So he's teaching them bhakti, but he's teaching them in language that it's easy to understand. Of course, they're children, but he's speaking really high things about the perils of, if you don't heed the life of bhakti, then the default position is you become attached to non-bhakti. And non-bhakti is the material life, and material life, it paints a realistic but not attractive picture. And we heard all of that. That was midday session. Now we're ready for how he's going to, just 2 more sections and we're done with the chapter. We're not done with the chapter. We have covered the chapter in a summary way. So supposing somebody has a doubt, sometimes people have doubts. And he addresses the doubt. He doesn't state the doubt, but Prabhupada states the doubt in his purport for the next verse. One is certainly very attached to family life, but if one gives up attachment to family life to be attached to the service of the Lord, one must undergo the same endeavor and trouble. Therefore, what's the benefit of taking trouble to engage in the service of the Lord? That's cut and paste from Prabhupada's purport for the next verse. And here's the next verse. My dear sons of demons, The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, is the original Supersoul, the Father of all living entities. Notice it's color-coded, so we're going to touch on these points. Consequently, there are no impediments to pleasing him. Now, how does what's the connection? Because he's the Father, there's no impediments to pleasing him. We'll hear. Consequently, there are no impediments to pleasing him or worshiping him under any conditions, whether one be a child or an old man. The relationship between the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always a fact. And therefore, there is no difficulty in pleasing the Lord. So we heard this in verse number 2. Because this, that, and the other thing, because the Lord is the original source of all living entities. So that's what this is indicating. The language is slightly different. Atmavat Sarva Bhutanam. He's the Father of all living entities. So because he's the Father of all living entities, it's natural. The relationship between Son and Father is a natural relationship. We discussed this in verse number 2. Remember that discussion? When Deva Vrata was put together with his father after 32 years of being raised by Ganga Devi, Santanu and his son, Devavrata, their bonding was quite natural because they're father and son. And the son was very dedicated and very, very loyal to his father, and he sacrificed everything for his father. Everything. And his father was very pleased and gave him some benedictions, this and that and the other thing. So it's a natural son and father relationship. Now there's some son and father relationships that are strained. I've seen that too. What's up? You're hand motioning something. You're not okay? Jagatananda, what's up? Nothing. You're waving your arms like there's something. You got the floor. What's up? Nothing. Cat's out of the bag. 23 skidoo, huh? Okay. There's a natural, from body to body, a natural affinity, son to father, father to son. So because he is the Atmavat Sarvabhuteshu, is the father of all living entities, same language, very same image, the father and son image that we saw towards the beginning. No difficulty in establishing the natural, because it's natural, intimate relation between Narayana and the Jiva. It's just like that of father and son. It's completely natural. Quiz question. Bhagavad Gita. Quiz question. Does Krishna say the same thing in Bhagavad Gita? Say yes. What's the verse? $15.7. Somebody in the room is going to recognize this image here. Yeah. Mami Vangsa Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. So all the living entities are Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, my eternal fragmental parts. So that living entities are his parts. So he's the father, and we're the son, or daughter, or the offspring of the Supreme. So there's natural relation between the offspring and the parent of the offspring. Natural. You want to raise some question already?
Well, we are connected with Krishna in that.
And it's in the spiritual sense. But
Krishna never escorted Maya. We do, and we suffer.
Okay, that's different. You're embellishing. There's a relationship between the living entity, the soul, and the source of all souls. like the Father to the Son. He's the source. You can't argue with that. Not yeah, but. Yes, we made some choice, but that's aside from how we got here, or what we're doing here while we're here. So, he's the Father, and so to restore that relationship, it's natural. There's the healthy and the diseased state. We're used to the diseased state, the Maya state, and then there's the healthy state. Don't worry, we're going to get to the Maya part soon. Hang on. So here's a cute little kid learning to play mridanga. There's no impediments in pleasing the personality of Godhead. That's what the verse is saying. That's what Prahlada is saying to his classmates. Devotional service is easy compared to all this trouble and tribulation and stuff, because remember the doubt. Well, there's difficulty in devotional service, so there's difficulty in material activity. So why should I choose this one instead of that one? Well, one answer is it's easy because it's natural. It's healthy and wholesome. From the commentary, purport: a simple endeavor of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu can make one successful in pleasing the Lord. Anukulyena Krishnadu Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. And therefore, it's natural, it's simple, and it's our duty to the part to serve the whole. Then there's all this nice discussion of the part serving the whole. And we all know what Prabhupada has to say about the part serving the whole. It's dysfunctional if the part is separated from the whole. His common example, that's like gruesome, but supposing the hand is separated from the body. There it is on the floor. Yuck. But to put it, repair it so it's working normally again, we'll spend lots of money, lots of time and attention and all those nice things. Because the part is meant to be in relation to the whole. So we're meant to be. Therefore, it's very natural. And it's our duty to restore that. Now, another doubt. Is it really possible, like little old me, and I'm this inconsequential living entity, and how can I possibly be pleasing and become happy by pleasing the Supreme Lord? That little fellow's got a very interesting look on his face. So then, another reference to Bhagavad Gita. Guess what? Simply by understanding these three facts. What's the three? Who knows the verse? Raise your hand. Don't blurt it out. I see one hand. I see several hands. Go ahead. What's the verse? Go ahead. Say it. Okay. Let's hear it for the Bhagavad Gita sloka. Simply by understanding these three facts, that Supreme Lord Vishnu is the proprietor of the entire creation. It's his. He is the best, well-wishing friend of all living entities, including bad guys, the good guys and the bad guys. He's not partial. And that he is the supreme enjoyer of everything. One becomes peaceful and happy. Gyatva mam shantim richati. And a little, because this is another essential key verse or understanding, conception from Bhagavad Gita, little endeavor, swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat, saves one from the greatest danger. And that's what's the message in Prabhupada's purport for this. Prahlada is trying to shoehorn his sons of demons. He's trying to bring them to bhakti life. So he's making it simple and, easy. Little endeavor. Just let's get up and have kirtan. We'll try. And they like it. But the teachers don't like it. So this is the Ajamila story. And in the Ajamila story, reference is made from the very first verse of this chapter. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahatobayat. If one performs even very slight devotional service, Narayana is ready to save one from the greatest danger. He certainly saved Ajamila from the greatest danger, being taken. That's the greatest danger. Explanation in that section of the Bhagavatam, saying Haribol to Yamaraj and the Yamadutas. It's not, it's the trauma of the soul attached to the body, leaving the body, and then it's, what's waiting for you on the other end. The Yamadutas come to get you. Greatest fear. So now we're ready for the next set of verses. Did you bring the Bhagavatam? Do you have a Bhagavatam here? You have look at this. There's a whole library on the shelf. Can you go? Canto 7. Canto 7. Chapter 6. Text number 20, 21, 22. They're all grouped together, so there's 4 verses grouped together in the Sanskrit, and then the translation I'll read because it's kind of long. This is Sambandha Gyan. It's Prahlad teaching. You all know Sambandha Gyan. It's the relationship between things and the source of those things. Everything has its source, and the relationship between the source and the things that come from the source, that's Sambandha Gyan. So here's Prahlad's way of teaching that. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, who is infallible and indefatigable, is present in different forms of life, from the inert living beings, stavara, those that don't move, inert, but they're living beings, such as the plants, to Brahma, the foremost created living being. He is also present in the varieties of material creations and in the material elements, the total material energy, and the modes of nature, as well as the unmanifested material nature and the false ego. The list goes on, don't worry. Although he is one, he is present everywhere. And he is also the transcendental supersoul, the cause of all causes, who is present as the observer in the cores of the hearts of all living entities. He is indicated as that which is pervaded and the all-pervading supersoul. But actually, he cannot be indicated. He is changeless and undivided. He is simply perceived as the Supreme Satchit Ananda. As the Supreme Satchit Ananda. Being covered by the curtain of the external energy, to the atheist, he appears to be non-existent. He's all these things, he's all pervasive, this and that, and the other thing, but because of Maya, because he warned the previous verse, he warned against association with the demons. He's going to warn it again, specifically the demons, because they're sons of demons. Watch out for mom and dad. We'd like to watch out for the demons. Covered by the external energy, to the atheist, he appears to be non-existent. Question, O lovers of Srimad Bhagavatam, Is this discussed somewhere else in the Srimad Bhagavatam? Say yes. Okay. Where is it also discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam? Can anybody remember? Yeah. Say it loud enough so they can hear. Let's hear it for the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, those of you that like Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll know where that comes from. It's the foundational verse, the essential verse is not the Chatur Shloki verses of Bhagavatam, but Narada is instructing Vyas, why he's feeling despondent, and he gives him the solution. Sit in trance, you'll get an experience, and Krishna will reveal himself, and then what is revealed to you, compose a literature just on that, the personality of Godhead, and so forth. And so he sits and he does. And so there's several verses, 34 verses. I'm contemplating a seminar on that topic. Recently, Bhaktivedanta Maharaj gave a whole seminar on that topic, and I think it's a nice topic. So I'm meditating one of these days to focus on the realizations of Vyas, the samadhi of Vyas, which is the foundation of one of the ways of describing the foundation of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's certainly a place. Yaya samohito jiva. Atmanam triguanatmakam. So, another? Yes. Yeah. Here it is. Maya javanikar. Now that's a very nice section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Kunti's prayers. Prahlada's a little boy and she's a lady, and the little boys and ladies are not supposed to be smart or, learned scholars. She's not a learned scholar. She's a pure devotee. And what she has to say. So here's this is a nice devotee is going to sing these verses. We can hear her singing if technology cooperates. And her name is Sri Rupa. She lives in the wonderful metropolis of Naperville, Illinois. And here's the recording. I hope it works. No, it doesn't work. Let's see. Let's try. There we go. Louder. One more time. That's the chorus, by the way. So Maya Janavika, Maya Janavika. That's this curtain. That's the irreproachable factor. We're going to go to what does irreproachable mean. So irreproachable, reproach means to condemn or to criticize. Irreproachable is you can't condemn the illusory potency of Krishna for covering living entity. It's not her fault. She's not to be blamed or reproached. She's the irreproachable factor doing what the living entity, as we discussed, doing what the living entity wanted to try to become an enjoyer of that which I'm not the enjoyer of. It's called illusion. So my illusion covers them. And she's not to be criticized. But when she covers, then they can't see. In this very verse, the series of verses that we just went over, we did 20 through 23. 20, 21, 22, 23. That's 4 verses. So the word avyayam is also there. In the word for word, avyayam is without deterioration. It is an adjective to describe the Lord who is without deterioration. So Sanskrit has meanings depending upon context. So what particular translation one gets of Bhagavad Gita or anything, it's very important to have a quality translator. Here's a little something that I like. Prabhupada's expression, there are 2 ways to translate something from Sanskrit to English. Well, there's 3. Well, you do it wrong. Another is there's a literal translation. And then Prabhupada said the third is, or the type is, you translate expressing the mood or the feeling, the bhava of the message. And so he would choose words to, the synonyms and translations that would suit the context. Whereas somebody else may give a literal translation that's also correct. And so sometimes we find our commentators will do this. They'll say, this phrase can mean this, it can also mean that, it can also mean another thing, it can also mean another thing. Sometimes they give you 4 choices or 4 meanings, all of which, if understood in the right context, they're all correct. It's just a different angle of vision, different flavor, a different perspective. But Sanskrit is that kind of language. It's precise, but one has to be a highly evolved knower of Sanskrit to get the meaning to convey in a language other than Sanskrit. A little sharing. Every year for the past 35 plus, I stopped counting, 35 plus years. Once upon a time, I found out who was the other day I spoke wrongly. As a correction of something I said. I said that Balavanta purchased the Alachua property. He didn't. It was Amarendra. And I found out from Brahmatirtha Prabhu not only who, but the year and the date. November 20th, 1977. Amarendra purchased the Alachua farm. And many things have happened since then. So around the same time, not exactly, but around the same time, New York, because Prabhupada gave this little statement that where there's a strong center, simplicity, simple living, high thinking communities in living off the land, et cetera, et cetera. So way back, once upon a time, Bali Mardan was the GBC, excuse me. Gopijana Ballabha was the president. And the edict was we're supposed to raise funds to get a self-sustaining community for a simple living, high-thinking project. So I was the Sankirtan leader, so I was very involved in, how to get the funds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We had the funds. And then the funds, this is detail. Maybe you're not interested, but a devotee named Janeshwara Prabhu, Prabhupada disciple, Janeshwara Prabhu, from upstate New York, was given the assignment to find the property. So first, because this is New York City, he looked in New Jersey, agricultural state, dairy state from history. Couldn't find, he went upstate, then he went to, because he's from further upstate, he went to central New York State, couldn't find, started going into Pennsylvania. And when he got to the Amish country, right near Harrisburg, which is right smack in the middle of the state of Pennsylvania, he that was it. So the farm was purchased, and it was then known as the New York Farm. Nice name, New York Farm. And then Prabhupada was present when this happened, and Prabhupada gave it a name. But he didn't say where the name came from. We found out later where the name came from. He called it Gita Nagari. Gita Nagari. Prabhupada gave the name. And later, some devotees found a trunk in which this light of the Bhagavad, I mentioned it in the morning class, that manuscript was found in the trunk, along with the description of the paintings that Prabhupada wanted to be made along with the manuscript. And then there was this lecture that Prabhupada was asked to give at the time of Gandhi Memorial after his demise. And he was asked to be one of the keynote speakers. So he wrote a paper to go along with his speech, because that's what you do when you're a very capable person like Prabhupada, and academic people do it all the time, a paper that goes with the talk. The talk is shorter, the paper is longer. So Prabhupada, wrote, and this manuscript was found later, where the word Gita Nagari showed up in the document. And Prabhupada said, the way to honor a great person, this is the memorial, Gandhi Memorial Service. The way to honor a great person is not to name a street after the person, or a building after the person, or a village after the person, or build a statue for pigeons to come and pass stool on in a public place. That's not the way to honor a great person. But create a community, a nagara, a village, that exemplifies the teachings and the values given by that great person. Then he gave a name, Gita Nagari, because Gandhi in the Bhagavad Gita. And then he described what the village would be, Gita Nagari. So when that document was found, already Gita Nagari is known as Gita Nagari, but then the devotees that lived in Gita Nagari, started calling it the Gita Nagari Manifesto. Like, this is what we're supposed to do. From Prabhupada's time, way back, long time ago. And fulfill that vision that was, what was the inspiration, one of the inspirations, a principle in governing directive to Paramananda and the various people that were operating at the Gita Nagari farm. Something happened after some time. It's one thing to start something, it's another thing to maintain something. So after some time, the New York temple kind of disconnected from the Gita Nagari farm because it was too far away to get milk. And so we just, said, Haribol, good luck. Have a nice time out there in mid-Pennsylvania. And so things kind of went down. Satsrup Maharaj made his base in Gita Nagari. And so, then it picked up again. And then it kind of went down again a little bit. So I'm still in New York thinking, gosh, this is something Prabhupada wanted. So I started something like 35 years ago, every Memorial Day weekend, to go to Gita Nagari and conduct a retreat in different themes, different speakers, different experiences. Sometimes we had japa retreats, and Vadahari would come. It was very nice experience. And Satsrup Maharaj kindly, pulled me to the side and invited me to come visit his cabin and said, thank you. This gives life to the community because it gives meaning to the person to stay here and just take care of the land and take care of the cows and stuff. So all of that is a little background. This year, the person who's our guest speaker is Garuda Prabhu. And I know Garuda, like I know Brahmatirtha from like way, way back. Garuda, similarly, he did his PhD in Sanskrit at Harvard University. And I remember very well his, his personality and his charm and his humor and his everything. And over a period of time, as Sanskritists will do, he has written 2 books. And his 2 books are on Rasa Tattva. So I invited him to be a guest speaker and asked what topic, and he said these 2 books, because then he can sell some books, right? And I said, whoa, wait a minute, can you keep it really simple? Because this is going to be some new people, right? So it's got to be not just high up on the tree up there. It's got to be reachable by people that are new people, and not too dumb for the people that have been around for a while. They can stretch a little bit and take some fruit from the top of that tree. He said, no worries. This is just all of this is to share the meaning of words. So he said, many of your people, I understand many of your people are from India, right? Yes. So people from India will understand. Then he did this thing. It's funny. He said it's called the head wobble. And the head wobble can mean 16 things. And he started listing them. It can mean yes. And the first time I saw that is no. But it can mean yes. Or it can mean no. Or it can mean yes and no. Or it can mean neither yes or no. And it can mean, he started listing some other things, and it was he's very funny. He said, but people from India, when they do this, they know whether it's this, which from the menu to select. Because they have subtle intelligence, and they know the head wobble. So because your audience is largely from India, and I understand there'll be some others that aren't, that's okay. I'll keep it simple enough, but we'll just then they'll understand. Here's another one. He said, I said to him, I heard that you say people mispronounce your name. And then he said, yes, people mispronounce my name. How would you pronounce my name? He used the word elongated vowel over Garuda. Everyone says Garuda. It's not Garuda. It's Garuda. In China, there's a devotee that's all the classes I give, most of the classes I give is translated by Surabhi. But in China, they all say Surabhi. I blast them when they do that. Say it properly. Surabhi. Garuda. So if any of you come to Gita Nagari, please come to Gita Nagari. It's just be entertained by, what does mean, be edified by Garuda. Pronounce his name correctly. He'll understand that you got it clued in how to say his name properly. So the word avyayam, all of that detour was just, there's different meanings of the word avyayam. And it appears in the verses we just read, and it's an adjective describing Ishvara. And Ishvara is the Lord who is without deterioration. Now, there are other ways to say without deterioration, and there are other ways that avyayam can be translated. But that's Prabhupada. So, we'll go back to the translation of Queen Kunti's prayers, or prayer. Being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternal irreproachable factor. He's irreproachable and is covered by the curtain of the deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer. exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. So here's an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. A drama in India. And, The Lion King, it's not just in India. This is a Broadway musical, The Lion King. So there's a lion, there's a guest tiger or something. And with faces, and so they're the Lion King. Who's in charge? Who's the big guy? And they have a little, discussion. And all of this has to do with the translation we just read. This is Prahlad to his classmates. He is changeless and undivided. He is simply perceived as the supreme Satchit Ananda, being covered by the curtain of the external energy. He appears to be non-existent. So that's the curtain of Maya. And there's the Maya Shakti image with the three modes beneath. And so they're under her whammy, Maya Shakti's whammy. She is one of the personality of Godhead's direct energies, and expansion or reflection of Yogamaya is Mahamaya or Mahashakti. And this looks like a solar eclipse. But, when the solar, you can't see because there's something blocking what you can see. That's what that image is meant to show. So the personality of Godhead cannot be perceived in this kind of circumstance. Here's Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's commentary on this point. This is from Kunti's prayers. I do not know you, covered by the screen of Maya, beyond the knowledge of the material senses, and unaffected, just as the puppeteer behind the screen moving the puppets is not understood by the eyes of the ignorant. So here's a puppet. In fact, he's playing a violin, but it's just a puppet. He's not playing a violin. There's a puppeteer moving the violin arm and I don't know about the fingers on the frets and on the violin, but it's a puppet and a puppeteer. So people see the puppet, they don't see the puppeteer, and the personality of Godhead has got everything on remote control. And he's doing things through the agency of his potencies, but he's behind the potency. He's the potent behind the potency. Then in Maya, this is another image of mistaking a rope to be a snake. So if the snake appears to be a rope, doesn't mean it's a rope. It doesn't mean it's a snake. It appears to be something. And because of imperfect senses, we get another idea. We're almost ready for the final verse. There's Mother Jamuna at Prabhupada's feet. Here's the verse, verse number 24. Therefore, my dear young friends, born of demons, please act in such a way that the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the conception of material knowledge, will be satisfied. Satisfy the one who you can't see. Give up your demoniac nature and act without enmity or duality. Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service and thus becoming their well-wishers. This is exactly Prabhupada's mission. And he, in different ways he said the same thing, but he said the same thing over and over and over. And he exemplified it. And please take this movement seriously, especially those of you born in India. Please help this movement. Please understand what we're doing. Here's purport. Preaching is the best service to the Lord. He is immediately, extremely satisfied. Quoting Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, there is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. It's a familiar sight, nicely organized group of devotees with a Hare Krishna Mahamantra banner, walking in lines. Usually it doesn't happen quite that orderly, but that's okay. They're posing for the BTG. That's it. And it's beneficial for us and for others, and therefore, it's very important and very popular activity. So this is my godbrother, Sridhar Swami, now deceased, but for a long period of time he was in India, and here he is giving Prabhupada's books to people in India. Friendliness is one of the characteristics that's mentioned that Prahlada is indicating. The compassionate person is friendly to everyone because everyone is needing the elevation and needing happiness, and so give it. As one performs this service for humanity without discrimination between friends and enemies, the Lord becomes satisfied and the mission of one's life is fulfilled. The mission of one's life is fulfilled. So very simple people can do this. And very intellectual people can do this, and everybody in between can do this. But it's not only this or only that. It's the principle of giving. I know persons, we probably also all know persons, that their thing is not so much book distribution or Harinam, but it's Prasadam distribution. They're really dedicated to it with a lot of enthusiasm because they understand the power, the potency. I'm going to tell a little Prasadam distribution story, then they're going to end. For a period of time, I based myself in New York, and one of the things that New York has the facility for, besides I was the Sankirtan leader, there's lots of nice places in New York City for having festivals. And I was very much inspired by Ratnabhushana, who lives in L.A., and he helped me by getting little 10 by 10 tents with the same color design. We set up tents. We purchased and we quick put them up and then quick take them down tents. When we had festivals, we got permits from the city all around town. Prominent spots. First Amendment rights, free speech rights, and we got permits from the city, and we set up and did book distribution, Harinam, and Prasadam distribution. I remember, one specific event was at City Hall Park. Those of you that have been to New York, you probably know where City Hall is. And just to the south side of City Hall, there's City Hall Park, and that's one of the spots. So we were set up in this Harinam, book table, and Prasadam. So one businessman, there was a line people like Prasadam. So line to take Prasadam. It was nice Prasadam, very nice Radha Govinda Mahaprasadam. So one fellow sitting there, he said, do you mind if I give you some advice? Sure, please give me. He said, people don't always like you. Your music, it's okay, but some people don't like it. And your books, okay, but some people don't like it. But everybody likes your food. See, he said, I work on Wall Street. And one of my specialties is advertising and promotion in Wall Street. I'm giving you this advice. Do lots of distributing your food because people like you, because they like your food. And it's true. You can win friends by winning their hearts or by winning their stomachs. And it's people, they whatever, they like our prasadam. Now, some people don't like our prasadam, but largely people really like prasadam. And just do it consistently, and you win friends. And you win hearts. And then you win their ears. It's how it works. So there's the end. I went off at some angles to just tell a Garuda story, but it was a nice story. The head wobbled story. So let's see if there's some discussion. comments or questions? Here comes the microphone. Look at that.
The screen of Maya Shakti.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, did you say? If I'm not mistaken, I guess it's.
I hear you. I hear you.
Oh, there you go. I believe you said that there's the three modes of nature on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
but
image.
They didn't appear to.
They Prakriti.
Brahma was there.
What?
Brahma was there.
Well, there's the presiding deities of.
Of the three modes. Oh, okay. And then was Shiva there? Yeah. Okay. Oh, gotcha. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you for your class, Maharaj. I had a question on Vishwanathi Chakravarti Thakur's, what he said towards the end.
Okay.
Just as a puppeteer behind the moving screen is moving the puppets. So does this mean, like, if he were to say something mean to me, then I could go to Krishna and be like, why did you do this?
Yeah. But, you may not do that also. There's many choices in the menu, but that's one of them. Or, there's, Krishna, could you help me understand what's the why behind the what? Is there a lesson for me? This harsh dealing or something. Is there a lesson? And you may not get an answer, but if you ask the question, you're more likely to get an answer than if you don't ask the question. So it's certainly an option. There's other options. Okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So Maharaj, on the slide where you have the maybe the one after this one.
The one before this one? After this one? That?
Yeah. So about the service, this one. For the Lord's satisfaction.
Oh, this one. This one.
Yeah.
This is what you're looking for. Okay.
Yeah. So it says here, give up your demoniac nature and act without enmity or duality. So maybe a little bit about that without enmity or duality part. All right.
Well, you know what enmity is, and duality is all around us. So one might say enmity is one subset of duality. Friend and enemy. Duality. And any kind of duality. Happiness and distress, honor, dishonor, friend and enemy. I like, I don't like. Pleasure, pain. Okay? So let go of the temporary and take shelter of the eternal. And in taking shelter of the eternal, give the eternal, give devotional service to others. And by so doing, be the best friend of all, rather than enmity. So demons have a regard for those that aren't demons, the devas. And the devas have some regard for those who are demons. Good and evil, struggle. Okay? Okay. Yes, it's a couple of hands.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I just wanted to clear my foundation of understanding of why Krishna is not revealing, like in this material world, the Maya is covering. The reason is of further design is that our own desire to be away from him, and he didn't want to. He didn't want to respect our free will, and is that the only reason?
There's the head bobble. Not the only reason. You want to know you narrow it down. Is that the only reason? He reciprocates with living entities. The desires of living entities are diverse and complex. So it's only one menu choice. There's many complex. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was just thinking the two verses you were showing for where the Lord is covered.
Yeah.
I was thinking the Ishopnishad verse, but that's Hiranmayana Patrena, like he's requesting the Lord that you clear the. But then I may have answered the question myself. It was saying that you remove the coverage of the Brahman effulgence so that I can see.
Yeah, it's Hiranmaya, yeah.
Yeah. But maybe that's different.
It's different.
Thank you.
The head wobble again.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You know how you were talking about the festivals in New York City that you would set up because we have First Amendment rights.
Yes.
And I'm currently, I'm trying to understand how to keep in mind that one verse of Bhaktaram Yagyatapasam, that Krishna is the supreme well-wishing friend. He's the controller of everything down to the smallest detail. And yet, we find ourselves in a time and space where we have responsibilities. And Prabhupada, I remember that he said, I cannot forget my debt to the Americans. They have helped so much. But it was partly, or maybe largely, because there was freedom of speech, different than, say, in
Some of the
Soviet era, people were being imprisoned and put in nut houses for trying to. So if we feel that, or we seem to see that these rights that we've taken for granted all my life are in danger of possibly being taken away, should we just think, well, Krishna is in control, or should we take an active interest?
It depends on how you take active. Yes, take active interest, and then there are different ways of taking active interest. This question you're raising has come up 3 times in the past week, but someone is like, this was somebody at our retreat over the weekend, Gita Nagari, and this man, he has started getting red in the face, and the volume and his energy just went up, and he said, it was like, I get angry. And then he used other words besides anger, that violent. Mm-hmm. When I see, so what should you do when you see bad stuff happening to good people? Mm-hmm. So I had to let the temperature cool down a little bit. How you do what you do. The simple answer, we gave like a 20-minute answer because he was wound up. But we go to such protests of wrongdoings to people, and we chant Hare Krishna. And there's some people that see we're participating and we're cop-outs, because you're supposed to carry a banner and say the slogan and, down with whatever it is that they're agitating against. But we chant Hare Krishna, and then because it purifies the hearts of one and all. It's uplifting, beneficial. Very similar to a question that was asked about how it's Lord Nrsingadev's appearance is uplifting the entire universe. That was your question, wasn't it? Your question?
No.
No, her question.
Yep, Sparta's question.
Yeah. So Because the chanting of Hare Krishna or the appearance of the Lord is for that purpose, is beneficial, uplifting for the chanter and of the universe. That was your question. Some recent examples of persons. I mean, one of the things that this freedom of speech brings up to me is there's the opportunity, and with opportunity there's responsibility. Because in some places in the world today, there's a lot of restriction, and there's culpability, there's punishment from authority if one openly, preaches or chants or engages in book distribution or, propagating the message of Krishna Bhakti. It's punishment, and it's sometimes severe. So we're very fortunate, and therefore, with the facility comes responsibility. That's my thought. There's something behind you that had their hand up first. Jagopal.
Thank you. Just a little comment. And to me, this is one of the most wonderful things about Alachua, because we have so many Ratha Yatras around the state. So for those of you who were maybe at last year's Daytona Beach Ratha Yatra, there was some Christian people that were kind of protesting with their signs and, along the main boardwalk, if you remember, and they were really like, and they had their signs saying all the people going to hell, and they were really kind of agitating. But the kirtan just went on, and Bhadra was leading. It just got louder and louder, and they were just kind of drowned out, and people just kind of, they began to ignore them. And there was even one man who came during the middle of the play last year and was agitating over a speaker, drowning out the actors, and right, you remember that? And then one man who was visiting there, and he was a Christian man, but he was very, I would say neutral, favorable. And he went and said, "Hey, this is not what Christ." So that guy stood down. The other people were drowned out by the kirtan, and people just came and joined the dance. I mean, there was hundreds of people coming. It was amazing. And then this year, there was none of that. There was nobody there agitating.
So it wasn't as fun.
Yeah, everyone loves us. They love it. It's amazing.
Okay, but I said it wasn't as fun. Okay, right in front of you.
That's a good ending, though, because I have a critical question.
Go ahead. You got the mic.
I was just thinking, Maharaj, when need is created, supply is more appreciated. If Krishna, in the structure of individual soul, since there is no trace of Maya, why that imposition was first place? Then his mercy or his need are created. Why soul was not just in the beginning place, in a relationship where there is no question of ever going through heart struggle to come back home. Or maybe he wanted to explore that. Isn't Krishna expert to play unrestricted, unlimited enjoyment? Nothing limiting him. So he wants to use us to see that how far we go without him, and then needs his help. So then supply will be highly appreciated.
Well, the would-be scenario isn't very likely. Unlimited enjoyment with no opposition. That's Vaikuntha. So he's not giving us the opportunity so that we can teach others the value. When suffering does come, here's what you do. You do that. You do this because this is what you do. What I'm saying, in other words, your question is rhetorical. It's a hypothetical what if. Then comes, how people commonly live their lives, and they struggle. just like some of the early messages, the struggle for happiness is sometimes more difficult and more painful than, what they're trying to get free from. The struggle and the difficulty. And then they get slapped by Maya on top of it. So, any way you cut it, it's not nice. Not a nice place. People can think, oh, it's nice, or that's just the way it is, or whatever they think. So the best perspective is the transcendental perspective, and from Krishna we get the transcendental perspective, dukkhalayam shashvatam. And it's a fact. So the main, again, it end tomorrow with this whole chapter, Prahlad's teachings to his classmates. But the overall, this is Bhakta Prahlad. I hope you noticed specifically, not just Prahlada Maharaj, but Bhakta Prahlad in many cases. He's giving bhakti. He's doing what Lord Vishnu sent him here to do, teaching the ways of pure devotional service. Even in difficult situations, or when he becomes the king. And then, it's another difficult situation where you have all this opulence. So he's teaching the ways of pure devotional service, whether it's this or that. And fearless. And, the highest of all teachings, with the cautions and the injunctions and prohibitions, the do's and the do-nots. He's clear, and the students like it. That comes the next chapter. They stand and they engage in kirtan with Prahlad, and then the teachers come in and they freak out. And they immediately go to run to Hiranyakashipu and tell. It's standard. I want to end. Can we end? We just end. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.